Hello, this is a short little video just to go over Hack the Box Dante. Um, so if you're unfamiliar, this is a pro lab that Hack the Box offer, and the idea of pro labs is it's more of a network or a corporate simulated environment, if you will. It's meant to be more uh, or less CTF-like than the initial boxes, and it introduces a lot of concepts that individual boxes just can't. For example, like network pivoting, or just in general, just being more aware around the network. And Dante is probably the easiest one for that. It's the best introductory lab for those kind of concepts. I've just finished it a few days ago, and I'm just going to give my thoughts on it now. So, some positives from Dante. If you don't know pivoting, this lab will teach you that. You must know how to pivot, otherwise you just won't be able to do it. I think that goes for all the labs as well. They're all network based, so you're not going to be able to go through them without good knowledge of pivoting and a good understanding. As well, it's a good introduction to Active Directory, so there's nothing too complex on there from Active Directory side. It's just the very basic stuff that you absolutely need to know, and the foundational concepts that you're going to need to even start looking at Active Directory. So if you just look at something like how Active Directory works, or a basic introduction from it, if you've done the modules from the academy or looked at Active Directory any sort of like in depth, you'll probably have more than enough awareness to complete Dante, things like that. Network enumerations, that's better awareness compared to individual CTF boxes. So when you're on an individual box, it's easy to blindside certain things or maybe not take notes. If you don't take notes or be aware of what service is running, for instance SSH or I don't know any sort of login or authentication system, if you're not conscious of persistence, not so much in Dante, but definitely in some other labs. I know for a fact in some of the harder pro labs that they've got, or other network sets, or even in a real life scenario, if you're not conscious of persistence and things like that around the network, you are going to struggle, and you're not going to get very far. Personally, I think it's a really good introduction to OSCP. Obviously, I've not done my exam yet, but I am prepping for it. However, this has got everything I think you'll need for the OSCP. Not obviously, this won't teach you, and this will not be the pass for the OSCP. There's some things in here that you simply I know it's not very OSCP oriented, but it's a really good introduction for it. Anything that you're trying to learn, and in general, being in a network is good for the OSCP. Obviously, 'cause you've got your Active Directory set, and you'll have 5 machines on there, so it's good just now to pivot and things like that. As well, it's well priced. It's not particularly expensive. So in the UK, it's £39 a month. It's not too bad at all for what you get, and you get access to all the other pro labs as well. So even if Dante's not your thing, or let's say if you're a bit more advanced or wherever you are in it, you've got an easy lab you can play about with, or if you want something a bit more ninja, like some of the more difficult labs, you can go for them as well. They're all under the same like monthly bracket. Some negatives of the lab. Um, they're not private. That's the really biggest one. So when someone crows it and you need the labs resetting, if you've got a pivot set up or anything like that, it just means it obviously get taken down. That happened to me a few times, but other than that, there's nothing really too major. There was one box that gave me a bit of trouble, and for whatever reason, I just simply couldn't get it working for the longest time, and it was actually one of the first few boxes. It wasn't a box like a Bastion box, so I didn't have to pivot through it or anything. Luckily, I actually did that was I actually finished it after I'd got to the end machine, and then went back and did it. I believe it was a pivoting issue, but even for the longest time, some stuff it just hanged. It wouldn't load. So I was trying to authenticate. Stuff just wasn't working. I verified it with other users as well to make sure it wasn't my issue. It was just really weird experience I had. But I think that was pretty. It must have been something on my end because other people haven't had those sort of issues. So um, can't really fault Hack the Box for that. I appreciate it's expensive to obviously host a full virtual network of systems, things like that. But it would be nice if they could do that in the future. So some of my favourites. I ended up doing the buffer overflow just a few days ago for Linux. It's one of the last things you'll do. A little spoiler. That was really fun. If you've not done a buffer overflow before, this introduces you to both Windows and Linux buffer overflows, and both of them really good. I've enjoyed the Linux one more. It was a lot better. It was really, really good. I quite enjoyed it. Pivoting as well, as I've already said. If you don't know pivoting, this block will force you to learn it. You need to learn that, and enumeration and note taking. So again, a good prep for the OSCP. It'll get you into the good note taking format. And like myself now, I've realised where I need to improve on my note taking, where things could be improved, where I've made mistakes, or just general how to make it a bit better. So for instance, obviously some networks, every little thing, even if you don't think it'll be important, just document everything you are doing, because it will help in the future when you think, oh, I'll just remember that, or just something else that if you have to think about it, you're probably going to forget it. And likewise for the OSCP, if you miss one thing, obviously they can't replicate your steps, you will fail based on your documentation. I imagine you don't want that. Things to know beforehand, so obviously you get a lot of people asking on the forums and those sort of things. I'm ready for Dante, X, Y, and Z, or just how people do instead of actually going for it. They'll just ask. So a good foundational knowledge of Linux and Windows PrivEsc is needed. If you have no idea, or if you're very new to penetration testing, you will struggle on Dante. Because obviously, if you've just not had any sort of experience at all, you sort of jump in the deep end a little bit, even though it's not that complex. You're just gonna have no idea. So a solid understanding of enumeration concepts and basic stats. As I've already said, if you have not got limited experience when it comes to penetration testing, if you're making a career change or it's all very new to you, I'd recommend just going through some individual boxes first. Just build your way up, get to know like what CTF boxes are like, or specific niches for certain machine. So, for instance, at the box, the flags are always in a certain location, or in CTF box, the flags will generally always be in a certain location, or get to know a file system, so you know in the Linux root what folders will be there, and obviously you can spot when folders or just whatever's not normal, basically. The more, pretty much what I'm trying to say is the more experience you have, the easier it will be. So if you're very new, this lab will be difficult for you. Likewise, if you are very experienced, this lab will not be very difficult for you. It's just all based on experience. It's a basic lab, so if you've been around a few labs before, it's pretty easy. There's nothing too major out there. There's just a few things that might trip you up, but nothing nothing too complex. Probably the worst thing on this lab is probably the buffer overflows. That's about it. There's nothing really too major on it. Basic knowledge of Active Directory. So if you have no idea, if you never touched Active Directory, you will not be able to complete Dante. There's a few boxes on there that are in Active Directory set, and so you'll need to have familiarity with it and what domain controllers are, that sort of thing. Go through the labs, go through try Hack Me, Hack the Box Academy, things like that. If you've done things like Forest or Active, if you've got those boxes, if you've already got a good understanding, you'll be fine for this. It's nothing too major. I'd say Forest is even more advanced than this. I've not done Forest. I'm aware of it. That's the next box we'll complete after this, and from the knowledge that I've developed from Dante, I'll most likely be able to go through that box, I believe. Hopefully anyway. Good material for learning pivoting is if you watch John Hammond's chisel video. That's all I used. I just sat down, watched that video for about 30 minutes, went through it, and I had no dramas at all. Watched it once, just made sure I took note of everything, that pretty much what he did. He's got a very useful snippet of a little network enumeration in there. I think it was like a little ping sweep, something like that. I actually added that to my little cheat sheet. It was really useful. That helped me in Dante as well. Finally, buffer overflow concepts. If you have no idea what a buffer overflow is, or if you're very new to that sort of thing, you also will probably struggle. Again, I found for the Linux buffer, I've never done buffer overflow on Linux machines before. I found a little 10-minute video, and it walked me through just the differences between Linux, things like that. And that was really useful. Granted, it took me 5 hours to actually complete it, but by the end of it, I had a really good understanding of it, and it was really good. It's actually one of the most fun things on the lab for me personally, the Linux buffer overflow. So my closing thoughts on Dante is a really good lab for OSCP prep. If you're new to pen testing as well, and when I say new, if you've done a few boxes and you're pretty comfortable with Linux and Windows machines and some basic concepts of privilege escalation, things like that. If you've done a few machines yourself and you're pretty comfortable, I'd say it's good enough for you. You're definitely going to learn a lot from it. And it might be a bit difficult. Obviously, if you've not seen things before, it's like anything. You'll learn it from doing. That's probably the best way to learn it. Likewise, the OSCP as well, with that in mind, it's also going to give you a lot of the concepts you're going to need for that at foundational level, and you can just build from that, which would be really good for your exam. Second thing, Zephyr for Active Directory focused. So this Dante is obviously a good introductory to Active Directory, as it says. That's its sort of like its thing. It's just a good introductory lab for either the pro labs or just pen testing in general. So the step up from that would, for me now personally, is to work my way up to the Zephyr lab, which is very much Active Directory focused. So let's say on the OSCP exam, if I obviously were to get a hard Active Directory Zep, hopefully, doing a lab like Zephyr, which is primarily just Active Directory machines, there'll be some harder stuff in there, I imagine. So you'll be better prepared for it. Likewise, if you get an easy lab, or just you'll know what to look out for, and things that aren't gonna or potentially might not be an attack vector if you've got that more experience. And pretty much any more experience you can get for the exam is going to do you well. So that's all I'm trying to build, and that's what I'd recommend for other people as well. All in all, I personally think it was a really good lab. Really enjoyed it. I'd say the only complaint would be just that maybe the added private labs, but again, I don't think it's by any means like a factor for you to not buy it. It's just like a nice to have. Really, I can't really fault it, but really enjoyed it. It's a good little lab.